Okay, so this is a video I've wanted to make for a while because over the years I've gotten lots of questions, and when I was doing shows, people would ask me about the guitar all the time. So this is my review of the BMG Red Special, which if you don't know, the Red Special is the guitar that Brian May of Queen uses. Now this is not an exact replica, but it is by a company he oversees, Brian May Guitars, BMG. And a lot of people have questions about, should I get one? What are the tones I can get? So all I can tell you is my personal experience with the guitar and what I think the pros and the cons of it are. So, when I first bought this guitar, this has a serial number starting with 10. So that means that it was made in 2010, which is about when I bought the guitar, around 2010. I think in 2011 is when I tried out for this semi-professional band called The Wag, and they liked me, so I played with them for a few years. And this show did every electric show that we did in those couple years I played with them. Now, this is the clean tone with because I get asked a lot of questions about the switching system and everything else. So once again, this isn't going to be a video about all the different tonal variations you can get. It's going to be how I use the guitar. Now, this is just the clean tone with I always play with all the pickups on. Always. I never turn any of them off. But this is all pickups on with everything in phase. I think I'm a little out of tune. But, I mean, I love the guitar. I will say that. So let me talk to you a little bit as I'm tuning up here. I love the guitar, and it's been my main axe and will continue to be my main axe for probably as long as it lasts. Okay. But this is a clean tone with all the pickups on, all of them in phase. So that's all of them in phase. The only switch I use is I take the first pickup, which is the slower switch here, and I put it out of phase, and that gives you a little bit thinner, a little bit more glassy. Whereas this gives you a little bit more of a fuller sound. As you can see. So if I want a more glassy sound, I'll normally put that pickup out of phase. Very occasionally will I take the second pickup and put that out of phase, which gives you an even glassier, more of a Strat kind of a tone, but I hardly use that. And if you put that last pickup out of phase, you hear that? So this is kind of what I want to talk about is when I'm using this guitar, I will leave all of them on and I'll put the first pickup in or out of phase, and I kind of treat that like my toggle switch, like you would on a standard guitar with a three-way toggle. If you want more trebly stuff, this position. If I'm doing rhythm or I want a little bit of a thicker, warmer tone, I put all the pickups in phase. But that's basically all that I use. Otherwise, I never ever turn any of the pickups off. Now, here's another thing. After using this guitar for years and years and years, maybe it's because I only use a couple settings, but some of these switches no longer work. Like when I try to turn off just the bridge pickup, it doesn't work at all. So maybe there's dust in the pots, I don't know. Maybe it's poor manufacturing quality. I can't attest as to why. I can just tell you that that's what's happening. But all the other switches do seem to work. It's just that last one seems not to work. But it's okay because I personally don't use it. Now, if you're buying this guitar because you want to be Brian May and you want to sound just like Brian May, it's probably not the guitar for you. You could get plenty of great tone out of a lot of other guitars, unless you're just going for the aesthetic and the look, and you want to look like Brian May by playing the guitar. But that's not why I bought it. And actually, I don't even know that many Queen songs besides maybe like some stuff like this. And it definitely has that feel to it. I mean, it sounds, I guess, closer to what Brian May plays than what you might be able to get out of another guitar. And here's another thing to consider. This guitar, I have a very specific setup that I have to change a little bit if I want to use any other guitar. This guitar has a very, very bassy sound to it. Now, I've tried it with the treble booster because I heard that's what Brian May had used, and I bought it because I figured maybe it would clean it up a little bit. But I do not like how it sounds with the treble booster on. It's just too harsh. So once again, then these are the kind of things I'm talking about. If you want to be Brian May and you want to sound just like Brian May, it's probably not going to happen. Because number one, this is not an exact replica. And number two, you don't have Brian May's hands. So you're probably never going to sound just like Brian May. You could get close, but if close is what you're aiming for, then there are other guitars. When I bought this, I think I got it on sale for like $5.99 or in the $600 range. Now I've seen that they go up to $1,000, and I don't think I would pay $1,000 for this guitar. It's a great guitar and I love it, but there's really only two settings that I use on it, so I'm not taking advantage of all of the different tones that it could get. And here's my other point. Not every tone you could get out of this guitar is particularly useful. Like when I take that last pickup out of phase, it just sounds weird. It doesn't sound present in the right areas. Or like that, you know? You see what I mean? For me, it's those two settings are what I use. It just, a lot of the tonal variations you could get out of this aren't particularly useful. And also, if you're a guitarist that likes changing, you know, the settings for different tones as you're doing guitar lead, there aren't too many useful tones, and you don't want to be fiddling all around with this while you're playing because it can get confusing, which is why I just use that first switch to put the neck pickup in or out of phase, and that works fine for the kind of playing that I do. But basically, if you're looking to be Brian May, you're never going to be Brian May. You know, there's one Brian May, and thank goodness he's still here with us. But there's only one Brian May. This guitar might get you closer, but it can be a little daunting, and like I said, some of the switches don't exactly work, but I mean, you can get some good tones out of this. For me personally, how I use it is if I'm doing rhythm, I'll usually play with all the pickups in phase. For something like I'll put it back in phase so I get a thicker tone. So those are basically like the two settings that I'll use. If I want a bit more squeal, I'll put that first pickup out of phase, and I could get a little bit more. Sorry, this is something doesn't sound quite right with my board. I don't know whether a connection is loose or something, but that's a whole different problem. So please don't. This is for demonstration purposes only. I know that my playing isn't the greatest. I never claimed to be the greatest guitarist, but that's basically how I use the guitar. Now, as far as like the build quality, I love the way that it feels. It hardly ever goes out of tune once I get it tuned up. Right now, it's going through a little bit of tuning issues. That's because it's really, really cold in here. But it has locking tuners up at the top, so it really bites those strings, doesn't cause any slippage. I really like it, and I really like the way that it plays, but I am not taking full advantage of all of the tonal variations it can get, because I just, from the way I play and the things that I do, I just don't find it particularly useful. Maybe you will, but these are some things to consider if you're thinking about buying one of these. And are you willing to pay the price to have it? Because like I said, it's got a very bassy tone, so I have the treble cranked on this amp. This is a smaller amp that I use. I also have a custom amp with a 200 watt head. It's like ridiculously loud, but I really don't use that too much anymore. But the reason why I bought it is because normally with amps, when you're at 12 o'clock on your tone settings, that's 0, that's neutral, and then you can add less or more by turning it up or down. On the custom amp, neutral is all the knobs turned all the way down. So that amp is very good for this guitar, because basically I leave the bass and the mids turned down, and I just turn the treble all the way up. And that gives me more of a normal guitar tone. Because when I first got this, it was very muddy sounding, and I didn't know how I was going to get over that, which is why I got the treble booster, but that didn't work like I expected it to. So basically, I crank my treble, and that's how I get the tone that I want out of it. But those are the things to consider if you're thinking about getting this. I personally love it, and I love it for the price that I paid for it. And it is always going to be my main guitar amp for lead. Also, I like it because you can go, it's got the full 2 octaves, whereas a lot of guitars maybe fall a couple frets short. I like this because you could get, I play a lot of pentatonic, so you got that D pentatonic down here, and you could get the whole D pentatonic scale up higher on the neck as well. But other than that, it's something that if you want to take a gamble on like I did, you can probably make it work for you. But if you're buying this guitar to sound like Brian May, I don't know if I would recommend that. But overall, I love the guitar, and, see if it works for you. But that's my short, that's already going 14 minutes now, but that's my short review of the Brian May Red Special. It's a guitar that I love and I'm always going to use, but there are some issues if you're not using all the tone settings all the time, all those switches. Some of them might stop working like mine did, but some of those tonal variations don't really do, for me, too much. So you might find the same issue. For me, it really doesn't matter if that one's not working, because as long as I could keep using the guitar the way that I normally use it, I'm happy. I'll play a little something to end the video on. Hope you enjoyed the video, and think about getting one. Maybe it's up to you.